Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And a very warm welcome and a thank you for stopping by. As always, if you could please let me know if the audio is okay and the video is okay as well. I'll run through a few things before we get started. But as always, before we do anything, just a sense of bringing yourself into the here and now. Even before we get into any formal meditation or contemplation, just that habit of continually realigning attention into the here and now, the presence of being, and just beginning to center into that. Just checking my audio here. The little thing usually tells me it's picking up audio a little better than this. So just let me know if the audio is okay in the chat if you can. And just bringing ourselves into that present moment. Beautiful. Thank you. What could go wrong? So just running through a few things first. Not that this is some kind of formal meeting, but I thought I'd run through a few things. Firstly, you might notice that I have these horrible dark circles under my eyes. I get dry skin, basically. It's just like an eczema thing that flares up for like a couple of days and then goes again. You might have noticed it in a couple of my videos as well. Sometimes I just look exhausted sometimes, but I'm not. It's just I get this dry skin. I'm still not 100% sure what causes it, but I just wanted to let you know, because during this stream you might think, is Corin okay? Because his eyes look so like flared up and red, but all it is just some eczema. I'm absolutely fine. I also wanted to just run through, I had a few comments coming in about the ads that play on the videos. Essentially, I wasn't aware that there were that many. And I also didn't know that I could go into the options and change where the ads are played and how many are played as well. So what I've done now is I've gone back through my videos, not all of them just yet, but most of them, and tried to remove as many as possible. And especially on the live streams, I've taken the ads away from the guided meditation section so that the guided meditation should play uninterrupted. I would love to be in a position to completely demonetize all of the videos and take the ads off completely off of everything. I don't quite have the luxury of doing that just yet. I'm hoping if I can get enough of the channel members up, the paid memberships up, and there is an option for that there. This brings a lovely segue. Then I can be in a position to demonetize all of the videos and just bring the revenue in off of. I'm just being honest, basically. I just like to be transparent, honest, and authentic about what I'm trying to do and where I'm trying to go with things. Because if I can get enough of that up, I won't need to put ads on the videos anymore. Thank you, everyone. Looking great. I don't feel like I'm looking great. I feel like I'm looking like what the cat dragged in, which is a UK expression here. So I'm trying to just take the ads out of as many videos as possible because I'm aware it interrupts the viewing experience. And I know in particular on some of my most prominent videos, the ads, for some reason on some certain videos, there's an ad that plays like every 2 minutes. I didn't know it was that many. On others, it just plays like 2 ads throughout the whole video. It's really weird. I don't know why the automatic kind of placement is so prolific on some and not on others, but I'm trying. I've gone through all of them and tried to make it so there's like 2 or 3 on each video. And just my apologies for that. It was something I was unaware of, that it was quite so bad, and I can understand why people were getting frustrated. particularly on a meditation video. I am trying to take off the mid-roll ads completely from the meditation videos. But if you would like to already enjoy my videos and some of my more bespoke content ad-free, you can join the channel membership, which is a little button below here, for a small monthly subscription. And that has my premium meditations, premium talks without any ads playing at all. And on one of the membership options, you can join in our chat room on Discord, and we can have some discussions. We can talk about insights, and you can ask me any sort of questions more directly in a community of like-minded individuals who are all trying to get to the same place, essentially, this place of total health, serenity, and healing. That's that. Last thing, and then we'll go into the meditation here. Sorry, I know I feel like a manager, kind of like starting a formal meeting here, but I have a second live stream that I'm starting this week. It will be on Wednesday, UK time, 12 p.m., midday bang on, which in America, which I believe is ET or EDT, which is like Eastern time. The time zone is ET, I believe, Eastern time. It's around about 7 a.m., I believe. Yeah, so that's the second stream, because I know there was quite a few USA viewers, American viewers, who were saying that this stream today is just, the time makes it inaccessible, which is more than fair enough. And I've wanted to put a second stream on for a while now. So if you're in the UK and you can watch at midday on a Wednesday, then feel free to join in. It'll be much the same format as this one. And hopefully some of the American viewers will be able to tune in as well. That's everything. Thank you for bearing with me on all of that rundown, all of that data. Let's bring ourselves into this. So the guided meditation will be lasting between 20 and 30 minutes, maybe a little longer, maybe a little shorter. And then we will move into the informal question and answer section after. Getting yourself into a position that feels the most comfortable and appropriate for you. Preferably in a position that supports your intention to remain alert and awake. But alert doesn't mean tense and hyper-focused. Alert simply means open, receptive, and sensitive to the present. And already just a sense of what is. Just allowing the awareness to begin softening focus. We're not going to be narrowing the focus of attention into a laser beam here today, but instead opening the attention out like a floodlight, just an openness. To truly center within the ground of being now. Just focusing a little of that attention on the sensations in the body, the sensations of breathing. But there is no analysis required for this meditation. So just being open to what is and relieve yourself of the burden of trying to assess whether this is a good present moment or a bad present moment. Just a release of that tension that is ever present, trying to analyze or interpret. Just recognizing that actually you can simply cease that habit. You don't need to categorize anything. You don't need to label anything. Reality simply continues as it is, regardless of any opinion we place upon it, regardless of any words we use to describe it, regardless of any belief we have about it. The truth simply stays true. Reality simply stays as it is. And we can just move into a space of allowing. Here, understanding without the mind, there's no need to get involved with any thoughts of future, because there is no next moment here. There's only now. And there's no previous moment either. The reality is only ever now. It's only ever been now. It could only ever be now. And to truly deepen our understanding in this immersion of being in the here and now, simply see if it's possible to pinpoint the moment that the now ends and the future begins. And just take a minute here to see if we can really find the exact moment that it's not now and it's now the future. Let's do this now. So, fully immersed here in the now, recognizing that it could never not be now. truly deepening in the understanding of the implication of this. Any problems that arise within the now can be taken care of as they arise. All anxiety about the future is ultimately unnecessary. The future contains an infinite number of variables, and so it would be pointless to try and solve future problems that do not exist. So instead, simply focusing on the now, and if no problems are arising within the now, then all is well. So, to previous events and experiences have been and gone. They were experienced, and perhaps their residue continues to show its effect within the now. But we can deal with the residues of these past experiences within the now. In a sense, it's as though the past is still happening now. It's not lost to some unassailable, distant place. It's all still here to be worked through. So nothing is lost, and all is well. Noticing that no knowledge is needed in order to feel a deep sense of peace within the now. No new words are needed. No data is required. No lessons must be learned. No course must be progressed. There is no new information that could change the now. New information could change the mind or give the mind something to do. But all this would do is change the program that's playing on the screen. The screen remains unchanged, regardless of what is playing. So just allowing the now to continue unfolding, and begin to understand the space of awareness and observation that continually witnesses all changes, external and internal. We can never predict what changes are going to take place. However, we can be sure that you will be aware of all of your experience always. So do not get involved with any of the changes in the external or internal world, and instead abide within the awareness that is ever present throughout all experience. So deeply recognizing the two ever present constants. It's always now, and you are always aware. Those are the only two things that you can always be sure of, that will always be true, regardless of the events, external or internal, regardless of the experience, external or internal. So simply seeing if it's possible to disregard any of the content of the mind, the thoughts, the feelings, the images, thoughts of future, thoughts of past, just disregard, let go, let go, let go, let go. And instead find the security, the peace, the stillness from abiding in those two constants that are always present, the now and the awareness of now. Notice that the mind begins to enjoy this peace, and that is great. That is good. But as the mind begins to enjoy this peace, there is a tendency to begin drifting back towards the content of the mind. And just for the duration, the remainder of this meditation, disregard even that. Even as the mind begins to enjoy the perfume, the vapor that evaporates out of this space of peace and being, it can be tempting to get lost again in thoughts. And even pleasant thoughts eventually have a tendency to become a thought stream that can become all tangled and knotted up again. And just for this time now, don't get involved in any of the content of the mind. This peace, this stillness, is not a function of the mind. This peace and stillness is your being, the heart of your being that is always present. When this is truly experienced and truly felt and recognized as the root and ground of your very being, undisturbable, unchangeable, uninterrupted, the mind will simply fall silent and be perfectly happy and perfectly at peace. But we can just allow the mind to remain at peace, like a sleeping dog that's had a long day of playing and chasing, guarding the home, and now can just fall asleep in front of the fire. That's how we're just going to leave the mind for this time now. Just leave it alone. And instead abide in the safety, the security, and the comfort of this still now. Still now. Has the future started yet? Could it ever start? And have we had any experiences we were not aware of yet? The world, external and internal, has continued to change. Even just during this time now, has changed continually. Everything changes and is changing. But those two constants are still true. It is still now, and you are still aware. And if that sleeping dog of the mind begins to stir, pricks its ears up, that is fine. Just leave it well alone and it will fall back asleep. The only place that one needs to reside in order to be within a secure, unshakable peace is the now, the awareness of the presence of being. No amount of knowledge can bring you to this space of peace. Instead, all that is necessary is the recognition that this space of peace is always available to you. Now, truly deepening this realization by recognizing, although the mind can be disturbed and although the body can be disturbed, simply contemplate, is the awareness itself disturbed? Aware of disturbance, but is the awareness itself disturbed? Be aware of the tendency to begin tightening up, just releasing all burdens, all tensions, just an allowing. The body, mind, and world will continue as it always does, regardless of your involvement or not. Just allow. Leave everything. A loving disinterest. This letting go releases tension and is a powerfully healthy place for body and mind to reside. without the tension and stress of constant frantic thoughts and feelings. The body and mind can finally enjoy the rest that it needs. Allowing the space of this present awareness to flush through the body. Any tensions or strains, just this loving awareness that washes through. Allowing the body to feel that reawakening. The deep sense of safety felt by the body and mind, knowing that it's always held within the infinite space of aware being. All is well. And just before we begin bringing ourselves out of the formal aspect of the meditation, we can again contemplate, has the future began yet? At what point did the future start? And at what point did the past become the now? And at what point does the now become the past? It never happens. It could not possibly happen. Abiding securely in the implications of this, you are always more than capable of dealing with whatever is arising within the now. Beginning to shift your posture and reopening your eyes if they have been closed, we will begin bringing ourselves into the more informal aspect of the meditation, an opportunity to ask any questions, an opportunity to share any insights or experiences, an opportunity to say anything that you found easier during that meditation or harder, more challenging during that meditation, or throughout your meditation practice in general. But noticing whenever we begin bringing ourselves out of a formal meditation, it's like that sleeping dog waking up. If you've ever had a dog, they hear the sound of their lead being taken out of the cupboard and jangling, or the sound of food bags being rustled. You know how agitated and quick they are. When we begin to bring ourselves out of a formal meditation where we have been immersed in the space of being, immersed in the space of now, it's as though the mind can hear the jangling of the keys, the lead, the food. Just knowing this and remaining within the space of calm. It's okay if the dog wakes up, that's fine, but do not allow yourself to be pulled into the franticness, the stress. Just allow. And noticing it's possible to remain within that space of being, the space of groundedness, calm, and we can still utilize the mind. The mind is still a useful tool, just as the body is. It's just that the mind is often used for the wrong purposes, or overused, simply overused, overutilized, and misused, used for the wrong things. So, bringing ourselves out of the formal meditation and opening to the space of questions and answers. Not product placement, by the way. The reoccurring character of the Sports Direct mug in my expanded universe over here. I think a few questions came in as we were doing the meditation there, so let's dive right on in and see where we're at. So one general comment on YouTube will still play their ads even when you demonetize. Yeah, so don't worry about it. Well, we'll find a way forward with the ads. I will, where possible, keep ads out of the guided meditation sections of all of the content that I do. Regarding the soreness of the eyes, maybe it's allergies, hay fever, pollen. Yeah, I've got the strongest cream, which is an anti-allergy cream for it, and it seems to help. So thank you. Yes, I think it is probably an allergic thing. Very interesting question here. Is academia a sin? Sin is a very powerful word. And I would invite an exploration into an understanding of the definition of the word sin. I believe it's been misused and misappropriated often. I tend to categorize it more as something that will damage your internal world and external world, both yourself and others, in this life. Not, don't even worry about the next life. Sin will damage you in this life. So sin's quite a strong word. But if we're bringing in, because the what I'm talking about here today and the title of this meditation and the concept of this meditation is that no amount of knowledge will bring you to inner peace. So I believe that's where the origin of that question is coming from. Therefore, is academia a problem for us? There's nothing wrong. Like, academia and knowledge and using the mind and understanding and learning, there is nothing wrong with that in itself. It's a beautiful thing to do. Learning is fantastic. Even the mind is not the enemy. This is something we end up falling into often when we're in the space of that deep spiritual practice of trying to eradicate our suffering. We often come to this almost adversarial relationship we have with our own mind. But the mind itself isn't a problem. Information isn't really a problem. It's just that sometimes we need to correct course a little bit. With most things in the world, if we want to achieve something in the apparent physical world, if we want to achieve something in our lives, if we want to improve something, the best thing to do is to gain knowledge and then apply that knowledge to use data and understanding. But when it comes to inner peace and experiencing an expanded consciousness and an expanded awareness, that is the one thing when knowledge is not required. And in fact, knowledge pulls us in to a frantic, overworked, overused state of mind, which is the state of mind most people find themselves in most of the time. But as with anything, the tool is never the problem. It's how we use the tool. So academia, the academic system, the system of learning and knowledge is incredibly powerful, incredibly useful, and it's produced some of the most amazing works of humanity. It's just that some people get lost in it. The more you read books, the more you have to read other books to understand those books. And then you need to read other books to understand the books to understand the books. And this just goes on infinitely. This is a bottomless pit that we somehow come to find. There's a fascinating psychological effect called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is where somebody begins research in a certain area. And in the early stages, because they're suddenly and rapidly gaining knowledge in that area, they feel like an expert. And so their actual knowledge is fairly basic, but their perceived knowledge, the amount of knowledge they believe they have, is really high. And that leads to what we call the sophomoric effect, which is the sophomore means wise fool. And that's kind of the beginning stages of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now, what's fascinating is that the more knowledge you gain, the more you are aware that you don't have a great deal of knowledge. So the more you learn about a subject, the more information you get, the more you realize just how vast the field that you're studying is. It's huge. Let's take an example. Let's say you're studying physics, and in the first 3 years, you might think, yeah, I'm really getting somewhere with this. But then as the years go on, 4th year, 5th year, you realize this field just goes on endlessly. Nobody ever got to the bottom of this. So I use that there just to illustrate that there's nothing wrong with the academia as such. There's nothing wrong with knowledge. There's nothing wrong with using the mind. There's nothing wrong with information. It's just, I would advise, particularly in the spiritual circles and the spiritual realm, that some knowledge is a good thing. It can certainly point you in the right direction. But ultimately, no amount of knowledge could bring you happiness. Not the knowledge itself. The knowledge could point you in the right direction to peace and happiness. You might need to know certain things. I needed to know certain things to recover from my addiction. I needed to know certain things to recover to become fit and healthy, and to overcome anxiety and depression. I needed to know certain things, but at a certain point, that needed the learning had to take a back seat, and I had to start just living life, because that's where the happiness is found. That's where the peace is found. I hope that might go some way to understanding that. Is academia a sin? I just wanted to say thank you for everything said last week regarding my ending relationship with my therapist. I went forward more positive and confident in me. I feel so grateful and grounded, and today has reinforced this further. That is so, so heartening to hear. So heartening to hear. I think what you were going through in that last one is a very common thing that a lot of people experience, and there we see. So that's another thing learned. It's another. You see now, let's say you come into a period of time in the future at some point where you start a course of therapy again. You won't feel as nervous when that course starts to come to an end. It's just another layer of understanding, another layer of peace. This is how the unshakable peace grows. I believe in transmutation. We take that darkness, the darkness of that experience, we transmute it. That is what was originally meant. And the alchemist talked about turning lead into gold. That is what is meant. We take everything, take the negative experiences, take the positive experiences, and if we are wise about things and we act in a calm, rational, and wise manner, all of that negativity, all of that pain can be transmuted, can be worked through, and will generate gold, will generate love, energy, peace, health, vitality throughout your life. Sounds great. You're grateful and grounded, and today has reinforced this further. Perfect. Again, message retracted. I don't know why this sometimes happens on this chat. I never retract anything, so I don't understand how the messages retract, whether members retract them themselves, or I'm hoping that YouTube isn't automatically doing it. But if it is, just understanding that's not through my intervention. Welcome, Kidakan from, I hope I'm saying that right, from Thailand. Kidakan, Thailand. Non-doing, yes, that's right. The non-doing. Non-doing, that's probably the best description of inner peace. It's a non-doing. Adventures in the non-happening, as Muji put it. Satsang is adventures in the non-happening. Beautiful. So grateful to have someone from Thailand here. Okay. So from another member coming in here is from a channel member. I'm just about to finish up group therapy. I feel ready to move on and stop reinforcing the past identity as something that needs to be fixed. Other members say I'm spiritually bypassing. Just wondering if you have encountered similar issues from others' opinions and moving into a new phase of self-inquiry as to what I am not. Yes. Okay. The spiritual bypassing issue. So for those who don't know, there's a controversial idea that sometimes in spirituality and in meditation, we're using it to almost to go around the issue, if that makes sense. So if we have an internal issue, we have something in our psychological life or in our life that we would like to change, but we find a spiritual method that kind of goes around that. That's sometimes called spiritual bypassing. Now, as always, there's always two camps with things, and we have at one extreme end of things. Some people would say that meditation and spiritual practice, the whole thing is spiritual bypassing, and what we need to do is fully dive right on in and, I don't know, do something more, a more psychological approach. Maybe a more psychiatric would probably be the right word there. A more kind of practical approach to everything. And then on the other side of things, the more extreme end, there would be some spiritual disciplines and practices that would say everything that is to do with the mind can just be completely disregarded, and we just disappear completely. We just completely vanish, fully enlightened, go into shunyata, and all of our psychological issues were never even there to begin with. So they're the two extreme ends. And as usual, the truth is probably, I would guess, somewhere in the middle. The spiritual bypassing thing is used quite often as it's almost as an insult. And it's quite aggravating when people just use that. You're just spiritually bypassing. So that sounds like that's what's happening here, is that you've realized, you've deeply understood within yourself that your intuition is telling you that this thing that you've been doing, the group therapy, maybe has run its course. You've had enough of, it's maybe it's been useful, it's been good, but there's something in you that's saying, but I think that's as much as we can do there. And actually you're going to move on now into just pursuing the full awakening, essentially. I've had it a few times. People have maybe intimated that what I'm doing is spiritual bypassing, but just what does it matter? What does it matter what people think? It doesn't actually matter at all. Other people's opinion has got no bearing on your reality. People say all sorts of stuff. You have to learn to kind of sift through and differentiate between what's a good and reasonable criticism, or what's a good and reasonable opinion that somebody has, and what can just be completely discarded. Because I guess I just found that in everything that I've done to kind of heal and recover, you get people like criticizing everything you do. People are going to have a problem with you no matter what you do. You're just walking down the street minding your own business. Somebody's going to be like, you're wearing the wrong trainers, or I don't like your haircut, or you're walking wrong, or you're walking in the wrong place, or you're doing the wrong thing. And it's endless, isn't it? You're always going to get it. So the important thing is to discern for yourself what's coming from a deep space of intuition and what's coming from ego and mind identified stuff. Because in my experience, my intuition has never steered me wrong. And as long as I'm following my intuition, I'm secure and confident in that direction and in that path. And everything that people have to say about it just becomes kind of irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I would also say, if ever I have dealt with people who have spoken, who might have intimated that I'm kind of spiritually bypassing, I think for me, because I had to then, okay, that's an interesting take. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Whenever we get criticized, it's worth seeing. Is it true? Is it true? Is it true what they're saying? So I checked it out with myself and went into that deep introspection. Am I just avoiding my problems here? But it can't be bypassing because it's such hard work. When I sit and meditate, it's not like I just bliss out completely. It's not like taking a substance, is it? It's hard work. Meditation is really hard work. The spiritual path is really hard work on the body and on the mind. And in my experience, when I've really found that space of awakening, when I've really found the true inner peace, the psychological things that fell away were the false things, the surface level chatter of the mind. But actually, what happened is I became acutely aware of the deep, dark psychological patterns that needed to be seen. The meditation, all it did was deepen my introspection and brought me closer to understanding the issues within me that I really, truly needed to deal with. And so, how could that be bypassing? What exactly am I bypassing there? I think a lot of people are bypassing the deeper aspects of themselves that they need to look at by focusing on other things. And it's often those people who will accuse you of spiritual bypassing. People who are not secure in themselves, who are not healed in themselves, who are not conscious. It is the most unconscious people that leverage accusations against others because they're not happy with themselves, and so they project it onto other people. I would also say there's something that happens in a group. When there's a group of people, they don't like it when somebody wants to leave. And that's a well-recognized psychological phenomena. The group doesn't like it when somebody leaves, and groups don't like it when somebody is not conforming to the group ideals. So if you think about what that group is, a group therapy session, everyone within that group is committed to a certain mentality, a certain mindset, because the group only exists to partake of therapy. The group doesn't exist in order for individuals to awaken spiritually. So naturally, when you say, I'm kind of done with the group, I want to awaken spiritually, the group isn't going to like that. And there will be lots of talk to keep you in the group. Now, I don't think that's necessary. I think that's human nature. I don't think that's necessarily anything sinister happening. That's just human nature. The group doesn't like it when the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. If you've ever heard that phrase before, it's a very powerful one. It's one I hold very dear to my heart because it's so true. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. So if you're trying to leave the group, they're going to try and bring you back in, and they're going to leverage all kinds of reasons for that. But I would say trust your intuition. You're you at the end of the day, at the end of it all. Other people don't know what you've got going on. People can only people often believe that their map of the world, their understanding and framework of the world is going to be the same for everyone, that everyone has that same map, everyone has that same framework and that same understanding. So for them, for an individual who has not yet processed through some of the things they need to process and is not yet ready to partake of any spiritual discipline, they're not going to be able to validate and affirm your decision to say, I've had enough of the group therapy, I want to then move on to the spiritual path. They're just not going to be able to. And it's not always necessarily, again, it's not a sinister thing. That's just human nature. That's just a trick of perception. The way we perceive the world, we think everybody perceives it in the same way. So to briefly sum that all up, trust your own intuition. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. Not really. Our reactions to criticism should just be to check out if it's true, and if it's not, disregard it. Personally, I think if you're putting in hard work into something, putting in effort, and you're seeing something that ideally you really don't want to see, it's hard work. I'd rather not be meditating. I'd rather be watching a film or something. This meditation's hard work, so it can't be bypassing because I'm going directly towards the hardest work. That's not bypassing. I'm not escaping. This isn't an escape from anything. I'm churning through very deep, hard psychological pain. How is that bypassing? Anyway, I have a tendency to wax lyrical quite a lot. Let's go. So there is just one's gone. I retracted my message myself as I tagged the wrong person. Thank you. That answers that question, because I've been wondering why sometimes I get message retracted come up, and it worries me because I don't like the idea that YouTube is doing it automatically and it looks like I'm doing it, because I wouldn't do that. So thank you. Perfect. Hi, Corinne. Thank you again for this meditating. I have a question about posture. I always experience discomfort while sitting straight on the floor with my legs crossed and back against the wall. There's no right or wrong with meditation posture. The key with actually the physical posture in meditation is purely, does it support your intention? Is the posture supporting your practice? Now, there's various reasons for the various postures. The thing about the cross-legged and I like the sort of the palm thing where you put two palms together and link and press the thumbs together. But there's two reasons for that. One, it it kind of closes the loop. That's sometimes said. It closes the kind of the circle of the body. There's all the extremities are now touching. So it's almost like it closes the energetic loop, if we wanted to speak on spiritual terms. But in purely practical terms, purely physical practical terms, it reduces your temptation to fidget with your hands. And sitting cross-legged, it's like a physical metaphor, a physical signal that you're sending to yourself that you're staying put. You're not in an active position. If you're sat with cross-legged, it's reaffirming to yourself that we are staying here. We are staying put for now. So that's the reason for that. But if that's particularly uncomfortable, find a position that's more comfortable. One of the reasons meditation postures are intentionally uncomfortable is because it reduces the tendency to fall asleep, because that can be a very common problem in meditation, is people sitting in meditation and just keep drifting off. So sometimes, particularly in Zazen, in the Zen sitting meditations, they're almost intentionally uncomfortable because it keeps you alert, it keeps you awake. Now that's quite an extreme end of things, and I wouldn't really recommend it for most people. It can also, it makes you feel like you're doing something. It's quite a, Zen is like samurai Zen, isn't it? So it's quite tough. And if you think, like, there are Shaolin monks who meditate, who take that horse stance kind of posture where they're actually stood up but crouching down in like a static squat, and they will just stay there, and the discomfort is part of the meditation. The pain is part of the meditation. So that's the various reasons for different postures in meditation. But I would say, as usual, do what you know works for you. Do what you know works for you. Generally, I like to make very clear that meditation is not necessarily supposed to be a relaxation exercise. It's been commonly misused as that. It's an intentional period of time in which you contemplate and refocus the attention. That's the basic kind of bottom line. And so take any position that supports your intention to do that. Now, for me, I prefer sitting rather than laying down. But I don't, sometimes I'll sit cross-legged, but sometimes when my back pain's kind of a bit janky, I prefer actually sitting on park benches. I'll just sit on a park bench and I'll still do the thing with my hands to keep it crossed, just as a little signal to myself that it's we're meditating now. But no more than that. Nobody would, if somebody walked past me, there'd be no way they'd say that guy's meditating. There'd be no way they'd be able to tell that. So if you're finding it too uncomfortable, just find a position that's more comfortable. It's not a sign you're doing something wrong in meditation. Life is uncomfortable enough as it is. We don't want to add more discomfort to it. So it's not meant as a relaxation exercise, but there is no sense in making it more painful than it needs to be. I hope that goes some way to answering that. Let me know if that's helpful and if I need to extrapolate any further. Someone famous wrote, "The more we learn, the less we know." Ain't that the truth? Yes. I believe if that's part of the cosmic joke of it all. It's often seen when you enlighten, when you awaken, you'll burst into laughter because you'll finally get the joke. You'll finally get the joke. And I think that's one of those jokes. The more you learn, that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And the universe will just keep running away from you, like the white rabbit down the rabbit hole. It just goes on and on and on into Wonderland. It's just like that, and I believe that's part of I find the cosmic joke amazing, most amazing, in the scientists constantly trying to find matter, and we keep thinking we found it. We go, oh, when we find it, we came down to atoms. At first, it was elements, the four elements. They thought, I see. So everything's constructed out of earth, fire, air, and water. Like that's the four things. Then they started breaking that down. It's like, oh, no, wait, there's more than that. There's like 154 elements. There aren't just four. But then they go into those and they're like, oh, but the elements are made out of molecules. And they're like, oh, and those molecules are made out of atoms. When we got down to atoms, we were like, right, so an atom is the smallest unit of measurement that we can possibly have. An atom, there it is, the atom. We found it. We found matter, until somebody went, yeah, but what's the atom made out of? And it's like, oh, yeah, crumbs. Well, we better find that out then. And we find out about the electrons, and this is where my physics knowledge starts to break down. But what is it? Neutrons, electrons, protons. And we're like, oh yeah, but it's made out of that. So that's the smallest part. Until somebody says, yeah, but what's that made out of? And they go, oh, well, then there's this like string theory and quantum theory. And here's the thing. Here's what will ultimately be found out. It just keeps running away from you. There is no smallest amount of matter. Why? Because there's no such thing as matter. And the mistake we make is thinking if we just knew a bit more, then we'd understand. But we never seem to learn the ultimate lesson, which is that it's infinite. It's infinite. There's no end to it. No amount of knowledge ever brought anyone any closer to the truth. No amount of data creates genuine understanding. True understanding just seems to arise. Data and information can be useful, knowledge can be useful, but ultimately, even that has to be let go of. The more I know, the more I realize I know nothing. There you go. I think it was also described as not confusing the menu with the meal. Yes, this is the sort of Neil Postman, Marshall McLuhan kind of era of stuff. Don't confuse the menu with the meal. Don't confuse the map with the territory. Yes. See where we're at. Why is there so much content about events coming this October, November? I'm not sure I understand the question there. Event in I agree. Those experience. So this is going back to the group therapy thing and the sort of leaving of group therapy to pursue spiritual practice. I agree. Those experiences of awakening and oneness are the only thing that has given me hope out of the cycles of chasing. I personally feel therapy also becomes another identity after a while. I suppose I can only really give my own experiences because everybody's journey of healing is going to be very different. And I wouldn't want to, because we have to understand there's an infinite expression of life and an infinite expression of individuals. And this will be a thing. There will be people who are utterly devoted and fixated on the spiritual path and could probably benefit from a bit of therapy. They probably could benefit from seeing a psychiatrist and getting some help, therapy, counseling, psychiatry in the relative world. There will be people like that. And so everyone's going to be different, and I can only really speak to my own experiences. There was a period of time when I wasn't all that aware of how much some of the negative experiences I'd had early in my life, in my childhood. I was aware some things weren't right, but I didn't know the extent of just how bad that really was. And two, the extent to which it affected me in my daily life. And there was a period of time when I was doing a lot of meditating, and I was definitely practicing things like the power of now. And I was doing a huge amount of exercise, and I was doing a lot of work because the first thing I had to do was to get a grips to end my addiction. That's the first thing I needed to do, because until the alcohol was out of my system for years, my brain was just scrambled egg, right? So I needed to get that out. That was the first thing I needed to do. And for a while, I was actively denying the effect that my childhood had on my daily life and my emotional well-being. And so at that time, one could probably say I might have been bypassing, maybe. But eventually it was through meditation that my intuition, my insight, and my sensitivity grew enough to a point where some of these memories, when I was feeling strong, stable enough, healthy enough, then those memories started to arise. Your mind will only bring to your attention things that you're ready to face. And so I must have arrived at a point where I was ready to face it. And I did need some help from a counselor to just assess what exactly went on there, what happened there, what do I need to do. But eventually, I arrived at this same conclusion that you're arriving at there. So I personally feel therapy also becomes another identity. After a while, it does. And people, I don't want to say people get addicted to it, but people become reliant on it. And that's something that we should never happen. We touched on this last week in that any good therapist is trying to work their way out of your life. They don't want you to keep coming back for the rest of your life. A good therapist is trying to give you the strength, the knowledge, the tools, the understanding so that you can take matters into your own hands. Now, for some people, they might require much longer and much more intensive therapy. They just might, because come on, some people have gone through such terrible things that it might have to go on for a very long time, and they'd be very reluctant to leave that therapeutic input. But the idea ultimately is that you shouldn't become reliant on therapy. I don't think there'd be many people that would disagree with that. I think that's quite a safe thing to say, hopefully, because I wouldn't want to put anyone off therapy. But at the same time, my personal conclusion that I came to in the end was actually eventually I got to the point where I realized therapy was doing me more harm than good. Eventually, for a long time, it was doing me a lot of good, but eventually came to that point where I was like, I'm sorry, but I just realized I was stuck in a sort of introspection loop. I still get stuck in it on occasion. We have to ultimately ask ourselves, where do we want to go? What's the outcome that we want? Where do we want to be? And for me, it's to have recognized the past, recognized the impact, the damage, some of the things that were totally unfair, that weren't right, that were wrong. Just just understanding, recognizing what happened, making right whatever could be made right, but anything that's been and gone and can't be made right, let go of, processed, packaged, healed, left aside, and I'm moving on. That's, for me, that's where I'm trying to go. And you have to practice your own discernment and your own intuition. It sounds to me like you've had a very deep intuition. There's a call, the ding has gone off, the alarm bell's gone off, the call to a different form of action has gone off. And follow that. For me, there's just a feeling. There is an almost indescribable feeling when I know that the activity I'm engaging in is healthy and healing. And therapy was sometimes like that and sometimes not like that. And meditation sometimes is like that and sometimes not like that. Exercise sometimes is like that and not like that. It's just, there's no one thing, there's no panacea. Healing is healing. There's many different ways of going about it. I will say, though, I will add in This process is nails, which is a UK slang for my American listeners. Nails, meaning hard as nails, meaning it's hard, meaning it's tough. This process that we're going through, meditating, therapy, healing, all of it, there's a reason a lot of people never even bother. Why? Because it's hard. It hurts. It's painful. It drains your energy. It drains your resources. It drains your energy, your time, your money. It can be so exhausting, this process. And there's a lot of people out there who will simply never bother because they took one look at the darkness and the pain and said, nope, not for me, thanks. And so they try and live their life never going there, never healing from the past. And then they wonder why they're so stressed out, why they're so miserable, why they keep getting into bad relationships, why they can't get anywhere in their career, why they can't sleep, why they're always anxious, why they're always hurting. Because they never turned around and looked and faced the reality. So it's hard, it's tough. And one of the things, because it was driving me nuts, and one of the things that I needed to learn how to do, and I would encourage anyone to learn how to do, is to recognize that the depth of the pain, the root cause of the pain that has been laid down and is lodged and stuck in your being, the vast majority of it is stuck in your body, not in your mind. When we're all up in our mind, that's when it's almost unbearable, the difficulty of this process. That's when the pain of this process, because up in the mind, that's where the rage comes up. That's where the injustice, the hurt, the shame, the sorrow, the guilt, the regret, that's where all of that takes place. And because it's so painful, that's where the majority of the focus of our attention goes. And so we end up trying to fix all of that, the mind stuff, the thoughts and the feelings. But it just generates more of it, or seems to. It can be so painful, it's almost re-traumatizing. Now, that stuff of the mind is actually the vapor. It's the pain that is emanating out of the deeper root of the pain. And the deeper root of the pain is stored in the body, physically in the body and in the nervous system. The franticness and the stored up fight or flight, the malfunctioning fight or flight response. Yeah. That's the root of it. So a massive key in the door turned for me when I was relieved of trying to fix the stuff in the mind, trying to not think in certain ways, and instead focused on where the pain was being held in my body. Because it's akin to if you go into your kitchen and it stinks, the stink is the stuff of the mind. The chatter, the rage, the turmoil, the chaos. That's the stink. And we could take air freshener and try and get rid of the stink like that. But it doesn't deal with the root of the problem. And what we actually need to do is take out the bins. Now, how do we do that? Well, one, there's physical exercise that we can do that literally releases the stored energy patterns in the nervous system. Cardiovascular exercise and strength training. Those are two things that will literally help you to burn the pain out of the body. It resets and re-regulates your nervous system. This is well studied, well understood. Somatic release of this issue. Then in meditation, what we can do is apply that loving, open, empty, spacious awareness to the areas in the body in which all of this tightness is stored. and with a loving awareness, just encouraging those pockets of density, those pockets of tension to gradually dissipate, dissipate, dissipate. And understanding that as that happens, it's like taking the lid off the bin. There might be this huge surge of continued mind activity, but by bringing our awareness fully into the depth of the body and really encouraging that tension to release, we are beginning to clean the bin, take the bin out, and get to the root of the root of the root of the root. Now, there's an enormous amount of liberation that can be found right there by going directly to the root, feeling the sensation directly without the content of the mind. And the sensation might be unpleasant, maybe tight guts, maybe tight chest, tight neck, tight back, digestive problems, all kinds of stuff. It can manifest migraines, all kinds of different ways. But just feeling that, where that pain is stored, doing it intentionally and directly, and realizing this is all it is. This is it, in the here and now. And the infinite universal consciousness, can take it. In many ways, the body and mind just can't. It's too much. It's too much for the poor inner child, and it's too much for the adult trying to deal with it all. But the infinite universal consciousness is free to feel this, where it's trapped and stored in the body. Something else then begins to happen there, because you become aware in your daily life then, where people say things that usually upsets you and goes into your mind, and you get caught up in the mind patterns, you get caught up in mind attacks and that stuff. When people say things that would ordinarily upset you, rather than go to your mind, you just go straight into your body and you feel it. And so somebody could be talking and you go, oh, that's weird. I feel that tension in my guts. And you've actually, your mind's not even really, you're not really interested in what your mind is doing. You might still be continuing the conversation, but your awareness has gone to where something has been triggered in your body. And this starts to give you an incredible depth of intuition when you're making decisions in your daily life and who you choose to hang out with, and maybe you realize the job you're doing isn't for you and things like that, because the depth of your intuition has now gone away from the brain and into the body, which is where the depth of true wisdom is. And the reason I say that is because if you are in a lot of therapy, it's very mind-based, which can be very useful information. But I'll tell you, the amount of days that I lost just to my mind, just constantly going through old memories. And we keep going through these narratives and stories of like, I should have said this, I should have done that. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? I should have said this, I should have done that. If they say that again, I'm going to say this. If they do that again, I'm going to do this. And that's exhausting and just causes more pain. But if you realize, oh, okay, so there's that mind stuff again. Where am I feeling this in the body? Where is this in the body? What's happening here? And go to the inner child. Go, what's happening for you today then? What's going on here then, kid? There's often something from the past has been poked. And to integrate that into the spiritual teaching, because this often comes up then. So it's like, well, hang on. How can I heal from a past if the past doesn't exist? Which is a very fair, valid, logical question to ask. Because in this, we always talk about, there's only ever the present moment. There's no past, no future. So how can I speak about the events of the past affecting me in the present if there's no such thing as the past? How can I heal from a past that doesn't exist? The best way that I can say to describe that phenomena is that the past is still happening. The past is stored in your body. That inner child never went anywhere. They're still there. And that's good news, because it means this can be dealt with now. We can't deal with the past because it's been and gone. The events are over, but the effects are now. So that poor child who was upset and angry and wasn't seen and didn't get what they needed, and either something was done or wasn't done, and there's an infinite number of things, right? So I'm not going to go too much into the detail there, but understanding that it's stored in the body, it's still happening in the now. And anything that's happening in the now can actually be dealt with. And there's our freedom, there's our liberation. That is how you liberate yourself from the past, by realizing it doesn't exist in the way we think that it exists. It's still happening. It's happening in your body. Yeah. So. Thank you. Do you have any tip how to have under control extreme and deeply embodied laziness? It would depend what you mean by laziness. Procrastination is a tough one. But laziness, where you're just not motivated to do anything. Find activities that have deep personal meaning for you. And just find those activities that you are connected with on a deep, intuitive, meaningful level. That's how you will just find energy from somewhere to do that. Often we shy away from activities that ultimately we just don't really want to do. For me, when I realized how much I loved exercise, enjoyed exercise, it's never fun, but I enjoy the challenge, it started to develop meaning for me. And so we move towards it. We want to find activities that have a pull towards them, that pull you out of the door rather than push you out of bed. The science of motivation is a deep one. How to be motivated, but the root of everything is the meaning that is behind it. When I was training hard to really recover, I was very obese and turning to a healthy weight, transforming my body and mind. It became about the way I perceived it. It wasn't a punishment. It wasn't something I had to do as a kind of medical intervention, but it was a stoic, determined adventure. And the moment I started to see it like that, you couldn't stop me hitting that treadmill. You couldn't stop me cooking sweet potato and broccoli instead of getting a pizza. When I saw it for what it was, the exciting, exhilarating adventure that it is, I was motivated 100% all day, every day. So if you're lazy in a certain area, it's probably because those activities or that work doesn't have any meaning for you. Change it up, find something that does have meaning for you, and your laziness will end there today. So matter doesn't really matter. Yeah, no, I get that. That's true. The clues are in language. The clues are in language. It's right there. It's right there in our language. It doesn't matter. When we say the universe doesn't matter, the universe doesn't contain any matter. It always says, what the old saying goes, what is mind? It doesn't matter. What is matter? Never mind. Yeah, hit the nail on the head. During meditation, it seems people are reporting getting insights messages about incoming events these next few months. Okay, so that's in relation to that previous one about why is there so much content relating to events these next few months? To be honest, that there's always that. People are always saying that. There's always this year is really spiritually significant. The next few months, big changes are coming, big spiritual shifts coming the next few weeks, the next few years, the next few months, and watch out for this date and this date. Personally, I guess that's not really my area of expertise. Sort of almost a spiritual relativity there, almost. I wouldn't be able to comment on that, essentially. It seems so much more difficult to not give attention to my thoughts when I'm feeling discomfort through my posture, but maybe I just need to go through that. Yeah. Personally, if I'm feeling too uncomfortable in my posture, I just move. If it's distracting you from your ability to meditate effectively, then shift your posture. Honestly, it's not that big a deal. Ultimately, just look at what we're trying to achieve. It's more the recognition of the difference between conscious awareness and the content of the mind. The physical body can be a useful metaphor almost for it, and consciousness of the sensations in the body as well as consciousness of what's going on in the mind, sure, but if something's too uncomfortable and therefore too distracting, I would just shift. Honestly, it's not as big a deal as it seems. It's not a sign that you've failed. It's not a sign you're not strong enough to endure the meditation. It's just common sense. It's just be loving. The universe is love, essentially. The universe doesn't want you to be uncomfortable. There seems to be a gap ceiling in recovery support where it's helpful to a point, but then you have to go beyond even the identity of being an addict. Yes, the I am is not an addict. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. A controversy around recovery support groups, particularly the very prominent ones. The method I use to recover from addiction is AVRT, which is found in the book Rational Recovery by Jack Trimpey. But I am is not an addict. That's right. If you identify as being an addict, then you will stay as an addict. It's as simple as that. And the one of the keys for me in recovering from alcohol permanently was that, how can I be an alcoholic if I don't drink? There you go. That was it. Done. Thanks, Goran. Much appreciate you sharing your thoughts. This path feels lonely and unique much of the time. I need to cultivate my intuition more. Much appreciated. I think your intuition is already very good. That's what I would definitely say. Your intuition is fantastic. Trust it, embody it, absolutely. And yes, the path can feel lonely and unique, but understand anything that you go through, somebody else has been through at some point and recovered from and come out the other side of. It's just about healing the wounds and releasing what's been suppressed that caused the need for soothing escape in the first place. Yes. Okay. TRE is amazing. That's trauma release exercise. Yes, agreed. Okay. We're coming up to 1 hour 43 here. I need to move because my back's starting to get a little bit janky here, so I need to get moving. So I'm going to have to bring the stream to an end here. Thank you so much. The comments that have just come in at the end there, what I'll do is I'll answer them in the next stream next Sunday. Thank you so much for being part of the guided meditation and the question and answers today. Fantastic questions, as always, fantastic points. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe on the way out. And if you want to gain access to my premium meditations and talks that you can listen to ad-free, please consider joining the channel membership for a small monthly subscription. That will also help me to put on more of these live streams, upgrade all of my equipment, and hopefully put more time, energy, and effort into these. So, thank you so much, everyone. Always a blessing. Please have a wonderful Sunday. You're all doing so well. You really are. Never doubt yourself. You're doing fantastic. Take care. Be well and stay present.